Hello, Pastor. How are you?
Once again, good. How are you?
I'm fine. How have you been?
I'm doing very well.
You know me. I'm still on that subject that we've been discussing and talking about.
Yes.
When considering Saul's state at that time, I realized that he was in a state of apostasy. But now, if we go to the New Testament,
Yes.
our Master Jesus in Luke chapter 16, verse 19, seems like he was teaching about Lazarus going to heaven after he had died.
Yes.
So now I got a little bit confused because he talks about Lazarus meeting up with the rich man who they had once had an encounter whilst they were on earth, and now they are together now in heaven. Seems like both of them, Lazarus and the rich man, after they had died, they went straight to heaven. So didn't Jesus teach that when a man dies, they go straight to heaven?
Okay, yeah. Like I said, with the issue of Saul and the witch of Endor, this is another difficult passage as well. And sometimes there are certain things that you pray no one would ask you about. Yeah, but, well, one thing that you need to note first is that of all the gospel writers, whether it's Mark, whether it's Luke, whether it's John, it's only Luke who recorded this one. And I like it that way because there is something about Luke that is very peculiar and unique to him in the way that he writes, especially his parables. Because we've got two options, Kuda. Either to accept this as a true story which happened and then acknowledge that the poor go straight to heaven at the point of death and the rich are condemned to hell at the point of death, because there is nothing more that we are told except that there was a rich man who had everything, and there was a poor man who wished to be fed by the crumbs that were falling from the rich man's table. When they died, the poor man went to heaven, the rich man went to hell.
Went to hell, yes.
So it's either we accept this as a true story which happened and then conclude that being rich is a passport to go straight to hell, and being poor is a passport to go straight to heaven, which is not what the Bible teaches elsewhere. Or we accept the notion that this must be a parable. Christ must have been teaching something by narrating this story. And I would go for the second option, that this was a parable, but we need to prove whether it was a parable or not.
Yes.
And like I said, that's where I like the fact that it's only Luke who recorded this one, because he's got his own peculiar way of introducing all his parables.
Oh, okay.
I will just pick a few of them, but I would want also even our listeners to go through the book of Luke and check where he writes his parables. I think 95% of his parables, they've got this peculiar way of an introduction. If you read Luke 19, verse 12, therefore he said, a certain nobleman went into a far country. Please take note of the phrase, a certain. Okay, a certain nobleman. Then Luke 16, verse 1, he also said to his disciples, there was a certain rich man who had a steward. 18, verse 1 and 2, it says here, then he spoke a parable to them, that men always ought to pray and to lose heart, saying there was a certain city, in a certain city, a judge who did not fear God nor regard man. Not only that, if we were to go to Luke chapter 15, verse 11, then he said, a certain man had two sons. That's the prodigal son, one of them. Luke chapter 13, if you want to read verse 6, I think, verse 6, it says, he also spake this parable. A certain man had a fig tree planted in his vineyard, and he came seeking fruit on it. Almost all of his parables, they have got this, catchy phrase, a certain.
Yes.
And when you come to verse 19 of Luke 16, there was a certain rich man who was clothed in purple and the linen and fed sumptuously every day. But there was also a certain beggar named Lazarus. So it becomes very difficult for us to deny that this was not a parable. This was a parable because it follows and fits into the pattern of all of Luke's parables. And if it was a parable, then we need to ask the second question, what then did it mean? Because all the parables of Christ had to be unlocked. You had to understand the meaning. Remember the parable of the sower, the disciples had to come back to him on their own and say, please, and explain to us the parable of the sower. What exactly were you trying to say? So we also ask the same question here. What exactly was Christ trying to say? There are two things that I want to highlight, Kuda, about these two characters, the rich man and Lazarus. The rich man would say, Father, to Abraham, verse 24, then he cried and said, Father, Abraham, have mercy on me. So the rich man is representing people whom when they see Abraham, they are seeing their father. They say Father to Abraham. And even when you read verse 25, it says, but Abraham said, Son, Remember that in your lifetime you received your good things and Lazarus evil things, but now he is comforted and you are tormented. So even Abraham, when he sees this group that is being represented by the rich man, he sees his own sons. So who are or were the people during Jesus' time who took pride in having Abraham as their father? John chapter 8 verse 53 will answer that question for us. John 8 verse 53, it says here, are you greater than our father Abraham, who is dead, and the prophets are dead? Who do you make yourself to be? Jesus answered, if I honor myself, my honor is nothing. So Jesus was having a conversation with the Jews, and they were saying to him, do you mean to say you are greater than our father?
They're the ones who actually regarded Abraham as their father.
As their father. So the rich man in this parable is representing the Jews, the Israelites. These are the people who during Jesus' time would call Abraham their father, would take pride in having Abraham as their father. And who were the Israelites? When you read Romans, I want to read Romans. It should be chapter, is it chapter 9 that I want? Verse 4. Yes, it says, who are Israelites? To them belong the adoption, the glory, the covenants, the giving of the law, the service of God, the promises, of whom are the fathers according to the flesh. Christ came. So who are the Israelites? Who are these Jews? They are the ones who had been given everything.
Yes.
All the favors were given unto them.
Yes.
That's why this rich man is presented here or portrayed here as being very rich and he lacked nothing.
Okay.
He's representing the Jews who were given everything by God. And Lazarus, we are told that he actually wished someone would give him even the crumbs that were falling from the rich man's table. And who is Lazarus representing? Matthew chapter 15. There's a story there where Jesus encountered a certain woman, from the region of Tyre and Sidon. And we are told she was not an Israelite, she was a Canaanite. And she came to Christ and she said, Son of David, my daughter is severely demon-possessed. Please have mercy on me. And Jesus did not answer a word. And his disciples came and urged him, saying, send her away, for she is crying and she's making noise. But he answered and said, I was not sent except to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. That's Christ now. Then she came and worshipped him, saying, Lord, help me. But he answered and said, it is not good that we take the children's bread and to throw it to their dogs.
Yes.
And listen to what the woman said. And she said, yes, Lord, even the dogs eat the crumbs which fall from the master's table. We are told in Luke that Lazarus would wish that crumbs would fall from the table of rich men and he would eat. And dogs were all over him. They were licking his wounds. So where Lazarus was, dogs were, and he would wish he was eating crumbs. And this woman is saying, yes, I know I'm a dog because I'm not of the Israelites. But at least I can benefit from even just give me the crumbs and I'll be content, just like Lazarus. So what we know here now is that Lazarus is representing all the people who were non-Jews, who would look down upon themselves even, and would understand and accept that they were dogs if compared to the Jews who were favored and they had everything. These ones lacked everything, they had nothing, but they would wish even the crumbs would come. They accepted the dog tag. Yes, we are dogs, but even the crumbs, oh Lord. And Christ said to the woman, oh, I've never seen such faith even in Israel. And the disciples were green with envy, because in Matthew chapter 5, the incident where the ship was about to sink, when they cried to Christ when he was sleeping, he came to them and said, where is your faith? Oh, ye of little faith. The Jews, the disciples, were a demonstrated lack of faith. The woman, the dog, is demonstrating much faith, and Christ is commending her for that. So Christ, in this parable, he was teaching a very solid truth, that there would come a time when the Jews who were favored had everything would be lacking, and the Gentiles, the dogs who were lacking, will be sitting in the seat of the Jews, and they'll be having everything. That is how it is portrayed, that Lazarus was now sitting in Abraham's bosom and now had everything, and the Jew, the rich man, now wished for a drop of water. And that time came after AD 34 when the Jews stoned Stephen to death. That was the last messenger to convince the Jews that Christ was the Messiah, but they rejected him and stoned him to death. And then Paul and Barnabas also tried to do the same, to plead with those of their own, the Jews, and they also refused. That's why we see Paul in Acts chapter 13 verse 46, then Paul and Barnabas grew bold and said, it was necessary that the word of God should be spoken to you first, but since you reject it and judge yourselves unworthy of everlasting life, behold, we turn to the Gentiles. So time has come that we are not giving these things to the Gentiles because you have rejected the favor. So the parable of the rich man and Lazarus was not teaching anything about death and life after death, but Christ was demonstrating a peculiar truth whereby the Jews would reject the favors that they had been given. They would reject the Messiah, and then Christ would make use of the Gentiles and pour all the favors to the Gentiles. Gentiles. It has nothing to do with the dead.
Okay, so it was more of a parable.
It was a parable.
It was not a subject about the state of the
It was
dead.
not a real story that had happened.
Thank you very much, Pastor.
You're
It was
welcome.
very much educating.
Always.
Thank you.
Thanks.